We're now going to look at the second to last process, which is respiration. Now the purpose of respiration is to break down glucose into a form that the cell can use, which is ATP. We have aerobic respiration, which means that we've got a plentiful or lots of oxygen available, and we've got anaerobic respiration where we don't have much oxygen available. When we have lots of oxygen with aerobic respiration, we have lots of ATP. So 38 ATP produced with aerobic and only 2 ATP with no oxygen or anaerobic. This is per glucose molecule. Okay. So respiration itself, okay, we have the anaerobic respiration that only occurs in the cytoplasm. Other than that, we have aerobic respiration take place in the cytoplasm and the mitochondria. Okay, remember the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and it's where respiration takes place. So just below we've got two equations here. We've got anaerobic and aerobic respiration. So with anaerobic respiration, or no oxygen, we have glucose, which is broken down into carbon dioxide. We have ethanol, which is the alcohol, 2 ATP that are produced. Now this process here, or this breakdown, occurs in animals. We can also have it, this one here is yeast fermentation. This one here is the animal. So we have glucose being broken down into carbon dioxide and lactic acid with only 2 ATP being produced. And in comparison to aerobic respiration, we have glucose plus oxygen. Okay, that's what's different here. We have oxygen here and not in here. So glucose plus oxygen goes into carbon dioxide plus water plus 38 ATP. Okay, so here are the steps of cellular respiration. We first of all have glycolysis. So glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell, and it's where glucose is split into 2 pyruvate molecules. So glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. Pyruvate is actually a 3-carbon molecule. So we have 2 3-carbon molecules produced here. ATP is generated here as well in this step, and we have 2 ATPs. The next step is the Krebs cycle, the second step. So with the Krebs cycle, this occurs in the matrix of the cell, okay, and we have FADH2 and NADH. These are the electron carriers, and they are carrying the hydrogen ions, okay, and then they are transported to the next one, or the next step, which is the electron transport chain. We can see the diagram below. We have glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and then the electron transport chain. Okay, we've got the matrix, which is the inner part of the mitochondria. Okay, and then we have the electron transport chain, which actually takes place over the inner membrane. So the electron transport chain takes place in the cristae, which is that fold of the inner membrane, and it's where hydrogen ions are pumped across the cristae membrane to generate energy and to add a phosphate to ADP to form ATP. Okay, so here we have hydrogens that are pumped across the membrane because there is a difference in hydrogen ion concentration. And because of this difference, we actually have it's called an ATP synthase. Okay, that is what is used to convert ADP into ATP. So adenosine diphosphate with 2 phosphates, and then we're going to add another phosphate, okay, to the ADP, and now we have 3 phosphates in the form of ATP. Okay, so overall, this whole entire overall aerobic cellular respiration, we have 38 ATP being produced. Alright, so there are a few factors that can affect the rate of cellular respiration. And we first of all have the rate change according to energy needs. Okay, basically if we have a low amount of glucose, it means that respiration overall is going to be at a lower rate because of that original glucose that is needed to break down. All cells require ATP, okay, in order for them to function. Okay, if the cells don't have ATP, then they can't function properly. So that's why we actually need the glucose to begin with. Muscle cells or root hair cells transport mineral ions, have a high demand for energy, so have more mitochondria to produce ATP. Okay, if you look at these cells, you'll actually see they've got higher amounts of the mitochondria because they need to produce more ATP. Skin or bark cells have fewer in comparison because they don't need much ATP. Okay, so here's a great diagram to illustrate the difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Okay, glucose going into glycolysis, where we have pyruvate. Okay, fermentation we have with the anaerobic respiration, lactic acid or ethanol produced. Okay, if we have oxygen, this is aerobic respiration. We have oxidative decarboxylation, oxidative decarboxylation. Okay, then we have the Krebs cycle, the electron transport chain, and then 38 ATP produced, between 36 and 38. Okay, so the diagram here, we can see that we have the different parts that make up the mitochondria. Okay, the cristae, we have the electron transport chain that occurs here, we have the matrix in the middle, okay, and then we have the cytoplasm around the outside. So there are relative structures that increase the efficiency of respiration, and these are listed here. We have the cristae that are folded to provide a maximum surface area for the electron transport chain reaction to generate lots of ATP. The outer membrane allows mitochondria to function independently of the rest of the cell. Okay, that's a really important point. And the last one here, the matrix contains enzymes necessary for glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. Alright, so that pretty much summarizes it overall. Okay, we've got the overall process of cellular respiration, the purpose, factors affecting the rate, additional notes, diagrams, and relevant structures.